Okay, everyone, we're going to be talking about how do we find our midpoint number. And so here's a really easy way of doing this. Another way of doing this. You've got to know what your benchmark number is. So let's say I have a benchmark number of, well, our number is 63, and I need to know what my benchmark number is before I can find my midpoint. So 63. Well, I'm going to go ahead and look at that. And I'm going to say, well, how many tens and ones do I have? And when you're looking at the number 63, after a while, you should be able to figure that out, that if you say 63, you heard the first benchmark, because 6 tens is equal to 60. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. That's my benchmark, 60, right? Okay. Now, I want to find my midpoint using the tens. So I have my 60, and we're using tens. So all I'm going to do is add 10 to 60. So if I had 6 10 rods, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 10 rods, there they are. And I'm going to add another 10 because we're using the tens, right? How many 10 rods do I have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we count by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, that gives me my other benchmark. So here are my two benchmark numbers using the tens for 63. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a number line between these two. I put my tick marks there because here are my two benchmarks. Now, I know that we are adding 10. That's what I added over here to get 70. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my tick marks in. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This last one, 70 is 10. So let's count to make sure we have the right number. And if you have an extra, you can just use your pencil and erase the extra. 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. Yep, I've got the right number of tick marks in there. Now, in order to simply find my midpoint number, all I do is count backwards. Watch. I put my fingers, using my two fingers, on the 60 and 70, and I'm going to go back in one step. See, I move both of them over one. And I can draw a jump for that if I need to. And then I'm going to come back again. And I can continue to draw my jumps coming back towards the middle, because the midpoint is going to be the one in the middle. And I move over again. And if I need to, I can draw these jumps to show what I'm doing. And I come back again, another one. And I draw my jumps again. And they come back, and look, they touch on this one in the middle, don't they? See, when I'm here and I come back one more, they touch. So right here, I'm going to put a dot. This is my midpoint, whatever number this is. All I do now is count. 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. There's my midpoint. Let's try it again with another number. A bigger one. Let's try it with 84. We're going to go ahead and start by figuring out our benchmark numbers. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my place value up here again. I got my tens and my ones. And I'm going to be using 84. And I'm going to be using the tens. I need to know that in the direction. So you just say using the tens, using the hundreds. And I'm using the tens. So I've got 8 tens. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And how much is 8 tens worth? 80. Now to figure out my other benchmark number, I'm just going to add one more 10. And that gives me, let's see, 80 and 10 more should be 90. Let's count them. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Yep, so I'm going to write my 90 over here on the other side. Those are my two benchmark numbers using 10 for 84. Now to find my midpoint, I'm going to draw the line, and I'm going to put my tick mark here, and I'm going to go ahead and count 10 tick marks over. Here we go. 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th one should be on 90. Let's count to make sure I have enough. 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86. I'm going to write that down just so you know I know it's there. 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. Yep, I've got the right number of tick marks. Now I want to find the midpoint. Remember, we're going to use our fingers, and we're going to come back until they touch on one of them. You go ahead and figure out what is the midpoint. Go ahead and pause the video, and you go ahead and figure it out. Okay, so let's see what the answer is. I'm going to start on the 80 and the 90 with my fingers, and I'm going to go back one tick mark each time. There's 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps. And remember the other video we said we're going to move 5 steps? 5 steps. It puts it right here on this one. 86 is not the midpoint. This one is. So what's my midpoint? 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. Remember we talked about when using the 10s, it would always end with a 5. But that only works for the 10s. So you need to be able to do it like this so you can figure it out for any number. Well, let's try another one that's a little different, just a little bit different. What if we want to do this with the hundreds? Okay, we're going to do the same thing again. Let's take a number like 589, and I want to find my midpoint using hundreds. What am I using? Hundreds, right? So let's go ahead and break this up into my place values. Ones, tens, hundreds. We're using the hundreds. How many hundreds do I have? 5. That's right. So let me draw them over here. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500s. There they are. 500s. So if I've got 500s, I'm going to go ahead and write down that number. 500. I'm writing my picture form into standard form. And I'm going to now add another 100 because I got to figure out my other benchmark. I've only got one benchmark, 500. I need 2. So I'm going to add another 100. How many do I have now? 6. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. I added 100. So over here, I'm going to write 600. I'm going to go ahead and draw my number line between the two. I'm going to put my tick mark here. I'm going to put my tick mark here. Now, I could add 100 little tick marks here, but that's going to take forever. I don't want to do that. And my other video, I tried to explain that we're using the hundreds right now. So instead of using hundreds, we're going to use the place value that's just a little smaller, the tens. We're going to divide it into tens because aren't there 10 tens and 100? Well, let's see. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. How many tens do I have? I have 5 up here and 5 down here. That's 10 tens. So 10 tens make 100. That was in that music video at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to break this up into 10. I'm going to take these 10 tick marks over here and I'm going to put them on the line. Remember, I'm not going to count the first one because that's where I'm standing. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and this will be my last one over here. And so if I count them, I've got 500, 510, 520, 530, 540, 550, 560, 570, 580, 590, 600. Now I'm just going to use my fingers and count back to find my midpoint. I'm starting at my zeros, at my 2 benchmarks, and I go back 1, I go back 2, I go back 3, I go back 4, I go back 5, and I land on this one right here. And I'm going to put a dot there. Now, if I want to draw the humps, this is what it looked like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I come back the other way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look, they both land on that same dot. This is my benchmark. I'm not my benchmark. This is my midpoint. 550 is the midpoint. All right. Well, that's how we do this, everyone. So I hope that helps. Oh, but Mr. T, we forgot one. You're right. There's one more. I forgot. What if I have that same number, 589, but they want me to find the midpoint using tens? Okay. Break it down with my place values, ones, tens, hundreds. Which one are they telling me to use? The tens, right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to ask myself, how many tens do I have? Well, it looks like I have 8, but I really have more than that because I've got all these over here too. So if I cover up the 9, it tells me how many tens I have. How many tens do I really have? 58 tens. Wow, that's confusing. 58 tens. Well, the way we can look at this to understand a little better is through expanded form. We take the 5 and turn it to 500. And we're going to add the 8 tens, which is 80. Now, we're not worrying about the 9 because we're using the tens. We're only going to count the ones in front of it. We're only going to look at the numbers, the digits in front of what we're using, the tens. We're not worrying about what's after it. So I got 580 more would be 580. And that's my first benchmark. Now, when you say this number in word form, you'll hear it. 589. We're not worriing about the 9, though. We're only going to the tens. 580, and there's my benchmark, 580. So I'm going to go ahead and write it down here. Now, what am I adding here? 10, because we're using tens, right? So if I add 10 more here, what am I going to have? Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 rods, and I'm adding one more. So how many do I have now? 9. So what's 9 10 rods worth? 90. So that's 590. Since this number is kind of in the way here, I'm going to move it down just a little bit. I'm going to put my 580 down here so I have a little more room to work with. And I'm going to go ahead and put my 590 because that's 580 plus 10. And now it's a lot like our first problem. We are adding 10. So I'm going to put my tick marks in. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I want to find my midpoint. I count backwards with my fingers. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. This is my midpoint, whatever this number is. So I counted 5 jumps again. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from this side, I counted 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is this number? Well, let's figure it out. 580 81, 82, 583, 584, 585. All right, I hope this maybe clarifies some things a little bit, and may the math be with you.